Discover the Women in Tech Trailblazers podcast, hosted by Tiffany, Benitez, and Jordan Franklin. Here, the complexities of being a woman in the tech industry are unraveled through discussions on key issues, personal growth, and how to succeed despite systematic challenges. It's a source of empowerment and inspiration for all women at all stages of their tech careers. We are so excited to be back here with you guys today, and I am over the moon excited to introduce you to Shereese Floyd. Shereese is the founder of AI Consultants for Nonprofits, also known as AICN, and they are an AI agency dedicated to making AI accessible to nonprofit organizations and higher ed institutions. Y'all, this is huge. We hear a lot about artificial intelligence, just in case anyone's not following the AI, although I'm sure we're all there. We're hearing a lot of that across the space. It's becoming a buzzword, but I love how Shereese is really able to take AI and bring it and marry it together with nonprofit and higher ed, because sometimes those are the two sectors that get left behind in some of the technology advancements. So her organization specializes in meeting nonprofits exactly where they are on their path, making sure that AI integration happens, and they have an introductory workshop. Then it's accredited 12-week AI certification. So not only does she have a program, she's investing back into these organizations and community, some certifications as well. And you guys know we're super passionate about that. Shereese is also an executive coach. She has 2 decades of experience in nonprofit marketing and has guided numerous organizations in boosting their revenue, impactful story-based marketing. We all know the story is key. If you can't tell the story, then you have a whole different issue, because all that you're developing and doing isn't able to be seen. So kudos there, Shereese. Her approach, which centers around emotional branding and powerful storytelling, has contributed to organizations generating millions of revenue. Who does not love the revenue? So I love that. And she's able to work with her top nonprofit education platforms, many of which we've heard of: Charity How To, Bloomerang, Network for Good, and Nonprofit Learning Lab. And she's also an adjunct professor at the Academy of Nonprofit Excellence. And then finally, she is a TEDx speaker and organizer of TEDx Mint Street. Shereese continues to advocate for change through storytelling and believes that telling our stories is one of the true ways to bring the world together. She has also been featured in Chief Learning Officer Essence, Forbes, Entrepreneur Magazine, and CEO World. She is celebrated, this is huge, as one of the 100 women to know in America and Who's Who in Black Charlotte. So I know that sometimes we talk a lot about this, but sometimes it's a little uncomfortable to hear all of the amazing things that we've done and we've accomplished. We've talked to different guests about that, about like, ooh, that was a lot, or they'll tell us ahead of time, please don't read all the things. But we feel like it is extremely important to showcase and speak to the amazing work that you have done and that you're doing across the U.S. and especially in the QC. So, Shereese, welcome to the show.
Yay.
Welcome.
Thank you. Happy to be here with you.
We're so excited to have you. And we always like to kick it off. So obviously, we're the Trailblazers podcast. We focus on authenticity. And we always like to bring awareness to the topics that we never really talk about, and really dive into that first question of, what does authenticity mean to you? As a woman in technology, what does that word mean to you? And what has it, changed in your path, or has it helped you? That kind of thing.
Yeah. I think we do spend a lot of time as women in general, and then people in general, talking about authenticity, all of that. For me, I have come to believe that neither one of those are a fixed state. So you can be authentic from moment to moment. You can be authentic, and then the next moment you're swinging back into inauthenticity. I think what I have come to realize for me is that if the majority of my life, I know that I am doing work that lights me up, doing work that fulfills me, and I am showing up in the truest version of me that is necessary at that moment in time, then that is what I consider being authentic.
I would say I really, really loved that you said that, because I think we have these goals as women that we like strive to be the most authentic, the most whatever, ... You could fill in the blank, right? We're always just like trying to like be what it is we're supposed to be, except also what everyone else tells us we're supposed to be. And I think that does fluctuate from moment to moment. Like, we don't live in this perfect state. Like, today I may totally have my crap together, and tomorrow I'm probably not. I might be in my bedroom, closet, floor crying where no one sees me, right? Because that's just the reality of where we're at. And so I think pretending to have it all together, or that we are even in this authentic mode 24/7, which is what we aim to do, but it's not reality. We are humans and we do fluctuate. So I love that you called that out. The thing that I really enjoyed, I loved all of your bio, but I loved hearing that you started out in marketing. And Jordan and I have this conversation a lot about like what the world defines as tech, and then holistically, what is tech? And our world and society and even our school system, unfortunately, there's a short segment of what they label tech and then and force us into with careers. And it's mostly around engineering. And while I love my engineer friends, that's a fragment of the story. And so you started in marketing, and we have these conversations and we hear these stories time after time as we're talking to people about how they had this like different entry into technology. And so I just like, if you could expand a little more on like your personal journey coming into technology and what really inspired you to pursue that path.
Yeah, this is such an interesting story, because even when people say that I'm in tech, I just told someone yesterday, I'm not in tech. And they're like, stop it. You are in tech. I was like, I don't know how to code. I haven't went to school for tech. They were like, stop. This is what you do. It was interesting. I got into the space of AI tech out of survival. I was pushed there because of a job that I was in at the time needed a person. As the marketing person, they needed someone to function as a grant writer. I was not a grant writer, and was very pointedly told that this is the job. This is it, right? You either do it or you don't, right? And so I've always been a person who like tinkered. At one point when my brand started, I was calling myself the digital Wonder Woman. Now people are calling me the AI Wonder Woman. I was like, okay, whatever. But I always tinkered with stuff, trying to figure out how things worked. But this tech space, or this AI space, was really about survival, working in a nonprofit and feeling like I was going under. And it was a couple months after ChatGPT was released. I had knew of it, but never really never opened it. I saw it was like going crazy online. And because I was at a point sitting at my desk, crying, feeling like this was the end of my life, about to do this hopelessness, helplessness thing, I opened it and asked it, could it write a grant? And the information that I got back, even in the most generic, benign way, lit me up. And I was like, oh my God. Oh, that's what we're doing? Okay. So I stayed up hours and hours and hours digging through, the dark side of the internet, and the places where people were figuring this thing out, to teach me how to write grants, and then using it to write grants. And after I left that position, I was like, okay, now I have this skill not only in grant writing, I also have this skill in ChatGPT. And what else can we do with this? And I realized the background that I had in nonprofit marketing as well, or in the nonprofit sector as well, that there are people who are sitting in nonprofits who are feeling burnt out and feeling like they're on their last, day, or striving to stay afloat. And I knew that this was the tool that could help them ease some of that. And that's how it happened.
And I think that's a perfect example, right? So it kind of like fell into it. It wasn't really forced. It was something you really wanted to do, maybe out of necessity, right? Because I write RFPs all the time, and I just wrote my first grant. And let me tell you right now, no, not my thing. So I feel you. I think I was crying at my desk, and my desk is in the middle of a whole bunch of people. So I was like, it was open and honest.
Yeah.
But have you ever experienced any biases, like through those hurdles, right? We all have those work hurdles that maybe you get assigned to write a grant and like that's not your shindig, right? But has there ever been any other hurdles and gender bias hurdles that you feel like you've overcome, and how did you overcome those? We always love to give like multiple different views on that question.
Yeah. So we're going to be transparent. This is an authenticity moment, like right now. So I am a minority woman. I'm a Black woman in the tech space. Right now, as the tech in general, I think we make up about 20 or 22% of the overall tech or AI space. And so that number tends to go down when you have those intersectionalities between race and gender. And I am in the nonprofit space in general is about 75% run by women, and then 54%, it's mainly white, and then 12% of that is African Americans. So in general, it is an interesting industry to be in. And then now you're adding this layer of tech. So there is a lot of intersectionality that is going on in this space. What I have personally come up against, especially now that I have an accredited certification for people in nonprofit around AI, is that people come into my inbox, and by people, I do mean men, specifically white men, who will come into my inbox and say things, who are you? I see you have your little AI thing going on. And I am like, wait, what are we doing? Or I will get on shows where there's a panel and I may be the only woman, the only Black woman sometimes, and they will talk over my point, or I will make a point about something and they will come behind me and re-explain or mansplain what I meant. Then I have to come behind them to be like, no, I said what I said, right? So I see this and I feel this, but to the questions that I get about who am I, who are you to do this? My response is, who am I not to do it? And that is how I operate here. Like, no one is coming to save any of us. We are all responsible for our own lives and our own paths. And so if I don't do it, who will? And who am I waiting on to come and do the thing that I know that I can do and do well? So I try to look at it like that.
No, totally true. And sticking, like having that voice and your authentic personality, you can tell that you have that voice, right? Having that voice to stick up and say, hey, actually, that's not what I meant. I think is something that we've got, that we're working to instill in the next generation. We've got some in our generation, and I think our next generation, there's a whole lot more of us that are willing to step up and say, actually, I don't know what I was trying to say.
Yes.
Yeah. And I think you bring an entire different perspective, right? Like, we talk a lot about the 28% of women in technology, but there's only 3% of African-American women in technology. So there is an entire different dynamic that has to be dealt with. And there's no need to like pretend that that's not the case. I think what we need to do is to deal with it head on. We need to have the conversations. We need to start talking about all the things that since the beginning of time, women aren't supposed to talk about, and we just kind of swept under the rug because it's easier. And that's exactly what this podcast is about. It's about getting to the forefront, the things that we actually need to talk about, because all people are doing is listening to podcasts and leave feeling like crap. Because they feel like those people have it all together and they're so amazing and the whole thing was perfect. And I don't leave, like, I might have like took some nuggets, but I don't leave with anything but feeling defeated. And what we want to do is to create that authentic space where like women leave listening to this show and they think, okay, it's not just me. Like, you know what I mean? Like, there's freedom in that. And that's really kind of what we're after. So I love that. So you are at the forefront of these AI initiatives in this nonprofit space. And I would tell you, I think that nonprofits bring a unique perspective in general in all areas, right? They are business, they are small business, some are large business, right? We have a multitude of different nonprofits, and sometimes they get dismissed and often forgotten about, especially when it comes to like evolving AI technology in general, not just AI. And so I'd like to know, what unique perspectives do you think that nonprofits bring to the table?
Let's take a moment to thank our sponsors, Women in Technology of Northwest Arkansas and Gumption at my-gumption.com, for their support. Their contributions are critical in bringing these meaningful conversations to you. Stick around for more engaging discussions right after this break.
Well, it really is that social capital. Nonprofits are very much do-gooders. They have the public trust. Majority of us believe when we see nonprofits that they're doing the work. They're in the trenches doing the work that, quite honestly, we don't want to do, right? They're doing the hard thing. They're having those difficult conversations every single day. And it is an industry that runs on passion. And that passion never turns off. And because it never turns off, they are always on the edge of burnout. They are always overworked and underpaid. There's a scarcity mindset that is within the sector, that people are doing incredible work, that if it was about money, they could take that skill set and go to a company and get paid probably tenfold, or they can get paid a lot more. Let's just say a lot more, maybe not tenfold. But because they run on that passion, they are really in a unique position to take a tool like AI, generative AI, and marry it with that passion to create not only wonderful content, but to create structure around what they do, where they don't have to hire someone like me to come and do it, because the tool will do it when they use their number one AI tool that no one else can take from them, which is their critical thinking and their human intelligence. And you marry that with a mission and a tool that can produce quality content, but also can free up space where they can take a breath and get back to the mission of their work. That is the exciting part of what AI can do for them.
No, I 100% agree. And you're so right. If they didn't have that passion for service, they could go somewhere else, right?
Yeah.
But along with that passion, right? And we all know that a lot of the nonprofits are addressing social challenges like poverty and healthcare access, education, and environmental sustainability. How do you see AI technologies helping, all of those social challenges?
Yeah, AI right now, we are all learning it at the same time. And I do want to, you hear a lot where people are like, you're behind. If you haven't already done it, you're behind. That's not really true. The thing is, when you're learning a technology, no matter what technology you're learning, it's a little bit of a learning curve, but you get there when you get there and you use it when you use it. I think now AI is uniquely positioned, and the organization serving those missions that you mentioned, it has the ability to close a lot of these wage gaps, gender wage gaps, racial inequality, all of the stuff that we hear a lot about, that this technology can kind of lessen those things. And so there's also things that I have to note, because when we're talking about healthcare and we're talking about education, we know that there are biases that are built into these systems, from the data to the algorithm to just prejudicial biases. And that means that if we're going to be using the tools at the front end, then we have to be a lot more diligent about what's coming out of it. We have to challenge it at every aspect. We have to be available to raise our hands to train it. We have to be available to raise our hands so it will represent all people and not just the segment that it was trained on. So there is a lot of potential here for nonprofit leaders to be at the table, to train on what it is socially that is happening in the world. And we shouldn't have to fight this tool that's really permeating our lives and will be. This is right now, right? This is the present. This is where we are. And now is the time for us to be at the table to make sure that it's a tool that represents us all.
That's amazing. And it's key. It's like, it's not going away. So you can ignore it and not love it or whatever. But I think what we need to do is focus in on how to use it responsibly, especially as we talk about our next generation. I think it's also really important to understand that because it is trainable, if we train it with bias, then what will come out will still be with bias. And so I think we need to address some of those things early on, understanding as we train it, understanding is how we responsibly use it, especially as we're sharing that. Again, my passion is the next generation. Like, let's teach them how to use it and leverage it right, which means we're going to have to open up some of our current state mindsets of like anti-ChatGPT and anti-AI. It's coming. Yeah. It's here. It's not leaving. It's also the most amazing and easiest thing to use, which is part of the risk and danger around it. But if we could instead focus on making it more responsible and helping to make sure that we have good information and understanding as we use it. I think it's really, really important. So we believe wholly, like it is like the essence of who I am. This is actually what Shereese and I spoke at separately, but together at a conference together in the fall. And what I spoke on was mentorship. That is like the heart and soul of who I am. I believe in the power of us turning around and grabbing the hand of the next person. And it is absolutely everyone's responsibility. And so I just like to know, was there like a mentor, someone for you that really shaped and shifted the direction that you went in your life, especially with regards to your career or even in this AI direction? And then how do you, beyond that person, how do you now take on that same responsibility and actively do that with others coming along?
There was someone when I came into the marketing space. Her name was Linda Candler, and she was my very first like real job that was not fast food. Well, I don't want to say it like that. I don't want to make sure say that fast food is not real job, but it was my first office job. We'll say it that way. And I was working at a botanical garden. I came in as the membership person, which sat within the marketing department. And she said to me that I had a knack for marketing. And I remember sitting in that office looking at these other women who were doing the higher level marketing things and thinking that I was the person that was the lowest on the totem pole. And with her being at the top of the department saying to me, no, you have a knack for this, like seeing that I was creative, I knew that I was a good writer, and seeing those things in the way that I thought about people in terms of how I listen to people and I could translate the things that were not being said and to be able to use that in marketing. And so she started teaching me like the principles, or, just include me in the conversation, or she would notice if I was withdrawn or if my door was closed, or where she would notice and she would make a point of letting me know that she noticed. And she's like, no, that's not what we're doing. So she was pulling me along. And because of that, I did invest in marketing. And I'm sitting here, right? And marketing became the thing that I was like, oh, I am good at that. It took a while before it kicked in for me to say, oh yeah, I'm brilliant at this. It took a while. It still was a learning process. But had it not been for her showing me that I did have it, even though I didn't have, credentials behind my name or anything like that, it's just like, you have the thing, you got it. And now I started, before AI came about, I'm all about women's leadership. I'm all about women having a voice, thought leadership and all the things. And now I channel that to women now. It's like, I don't want to hear, if you do not have anything good to say about yourself, come and sit by me, because this is not what we're doing, right? this
yes,
right? This ain't it. And so I make a point when I go out in public telling a woman that she looks nice, or, like, oh, those shoes are amazing. I make a point because I know how we tend to be hard on ourselves every single day. And I know that if you just notice, if you just see the person, if you just let them know that you hear them, the difference that you can make in their lives. And so the same as what she did for me, I'm very intentional about doing that for other women.
And I think that's huge. Like Tiffany said, she always wants to turn around and pull the next person up with them. But I also think like those little encounters throughout the day, you don't even notice how much that could brighten someone's whole day. And then they get something out of someone else even more. So because they weren't hard on themselves, and just those little encounters. We had another Shereese before, and she said the same thing. She presented in front of a whole group, and a couple years later, someone came back and said they got a cybersecurity degree because of her presentation. Right. Mm-hmm. And so it's like, you don't even know who you're affecting in a sea of people. Mm-hmm. But if you're affecting them one-on-one, that's huge too. Yeah. So I love networking and I love groups. So I would love to know which kind of networking groups you would suggest people, join, or ones that have really helped you to make further connections and really find, your power people to help you through the day. Who is that for you?
Yeah, I am connected to a lot of different groups in a holistic whole person kind of way. So I have business groups, I have creative groups, I have writing groups, And I'm purposely not going to call different people because someone may hear this and be like, why didn't you say me? But what I will give this is that when we come into this leadership space or this business space, it is important for us to have people who think like, who understand, right? Because we can have a group of friends and we're having like an entrepreneur issue and our friend doesn't get while we might be melting down about video editing or whatever the case is. So it is important to have that. But it's also important to have groups around your hobbies. It is important to have groups in a holistic, whole woman kind of way. The groups that have nothing to do with all of the roles that we play. It's not a mom group, no shade. It's not a business group, no shade. It's like, who am I creatively when we're talking about that authenticity? Some of us are pushing the authentic, what, Lord have mercy, I can't even say the word authentic self down every day with all of the roles that we're playing. So I would strongly suggest to network outside of your roles and network where your heart is and see how life just kind of fulfills you and opens you up. And so, yeah, that's what I would say on that.
I was going to say, and to that point, right? Mom groups, kid groups,
Yeah.
friend groups, right? They might not be your people, right? And so you got to find your people, and your people might be in the creative group, even though that's not your day job, right? But at least it's your outlet. I do pottery on the side, so I totally agree with that. 100%.
Yeah, I think not limiting ourselves, right? Like, I think when we identify ourselves, and I've talked to so many women over the past 6 months for sure, where we're all kind of in sort of, I don't even want to call it a midlife crisis. I want to call it that we started our lives early on with being offered and asked, what do you want to be when you grow up? Like, pick a job. And also, like, again, Jordan, you've heard this, but like, our parents had great intent, but they're also like, you should probably pick one of these careers because these are more successful and they make money. And then great. We all went different journeys, checked all the boxes, did all the things you set out to do. And then you end up in your mid 40s and you're like, crap, I'm completely unfulfilled. And we're calling it midlife crisis. No, it's not. It's the fact that we weren't asked or offered early on, like, to your point, what are you passionate about? What do you love? And then maybe start doing and operating in that and create income sources around that, create a career around that, because anything and everything can become one of or both of those. And so I think it's just really, really important. I love that you said, know all pieces of yourself, plug into groups that feed all of those pieces, because we all focus on professional networking. We do mentoring at our job. We focus on like the networking group events we're going to go to. But when is the last time we actually invested in something for us that had nothing to do with that, just who we were, what we loved, and what we were passionate about? So I really enjoyed that. We are unfortunately coming to the end of our episode, but Shereese, you are phenomenal. I am so grateful that you were able to come talk to us and the rest of the world today. It is amazing just to hear your journey. It's amazing to hear your heart and passion for what you're after. We want to say thank you again for coming. Thank you to our listeners for tuning in. As the usual, you will see Shereese's information come up, her social information at the end of this episode. So please follow her, reach out. She has a ton of content that can help you regardless of what space you're in. So you could be in corporate, right? But some of what she has from executive networking, development, leadership, all of that is applicable to each and every one of us. So reach out to her. Make sure to tune in and subscribe. Share this with all of your friends and colleagues, and we'll connect with you again soon.
Bye. Don't forget to subscribe.
Well, that's a wrap. Another episode of Women in Tech Trailblazers podcast. Thanks for tuning in and sharing this time with us. If you liked what you heard, please share this episode with your friends in tech. And don't forget to subscribe to our podcast. Your support helps us keep bringing in inspiring guests and uncovering topics that matter to you. Until next time, keep pushing boundaries and making your mark in the tech world. Goodbye for now.